All right, we'll go on holding by Book of Leviticus, chapter 17. Again, we'll go on holding by the Book of Leviticus, chapter 17. We're in verse 14. Right, still working our way through verse 14. So it says, "Kinefesh kol basar damo benafshoyu v'yamar v'oimar livnei Yisrael dam kol basar lo tochelu kinefesh kol basar damo hi kol oichlo yikaris." So it says, for the life of all flesh, blood expiates for his soul. Therefore, I said to the children of Israel, don't eat the blood of any flesh, for the life of all flesh is the blood. Whoever eats it shall be cut off. Right? So pretty clear. There's a mitzvah for Jews, right? Not for non-Jews. That fact is that it says, again, for the sake of the Jewish people, right? Can't eat blood. If you eat blood, you get spiritually cut off. Right? So that's what we've been that's what we're speaking about for the last number of weeks. So we're in the middle of the Orach Chaim HaKadosh, and the Orach Chaim we mentioned spoke last week about the different aspects of what's going on upstairs, right, in the spiritual world, right, so to speak, right. He mentioned that what he said that for a person's heart to understand, right, if you have an understanding heart, right, you understand that there's difference between what we call a behema and a chaya, right. A behema is a bigger animal, let's say an ox or a cow. A chaya is a smaller animal, let's say deer, fox, something like that. And he said because there's different influence that goes on that God himself puts in the world, and he keeps the animals around for whatever he needs them for. And he said there are 4 levels, right? This we spoke about last week, 4 levels, right? You got fire, wind, water, and earth, right? Dirt, earth, or whatever. And they, so he says that these things are, we don't necessarily see. I mean, wind you don't definitely see. I mean, obviously the water, dirt, and things you do see, but talking about in spiritual terms, right? And they are the 4 corners, 4 legs, let's say, of God's heavenly throne. They have certain influence. You have on the four corners of God's throne, you get the face of a person, face of an eagle, right? Face of a lion, face of an ox, corresponds for angels, right? Gabriel, Raphael, Michael, and Nuriel. And each one gets from the other, right? We sort of spoke about that as well. So then he says one other thing I think I want to hit here, maybe a few things. One is that what are we talking about before? He says that you got the animals, and the animals God puts in the world, gives them life because they're only programmed DNA, and he uses them for what he needs them for. Right, keeps their species alive. I guess if he doesn't need them anymore, so the species dies out. That's why a species would die out. And then he says something very interesting. He says that the idea of the soul is a tremendously elevated thing among things in heaven. But again, you got other spiritual beings there. We've spoken about that. The Ramchal brings down in Derech Hashem, right, in the way of God, speaks about spiritual forces and what different spiritual forces do, and there are different levels of spiritual forces, etc. We mentioned, I think we mentioned at the end of last week that there's an idea that when a person does something, whatever action they may do, so that has ramifications in this world, has ramifications in the spiritual world. So the reality is, what happens? A person does something, whatever the action may be, before it's done, or even after it's done, right? God judges it. God looks at it. God looks at it, judges it, puts it back in this world, and whatever the ramifications are, they are, right? But everything seemingly starts, says Ramchal, in that world, right? The spiritual world makes its way to this world, right? Different things going on, right? How we're affected, what we see, etc. So then he says, the soul is a creation that's tremendously elevated among the creations in heaven. That God created from the upper light, right? Spiritual lights, in different levels, right? Each soul is different, right? Not every soul is capable of doing what another soul is capable of doing, right? There are different levels. So he says, so too, that the influence, there are levels of influence which come really from God's heavenly throne, which is above the great angels, Chayes HaKodesh, these holy angels, etc. Well, what's going on here? Right? Well, what's he talking about? So, without delving too much into Kabbalah here, right? We'll make it very simple. The soul is more elevated than any other being, right? Angels don't have free will. Angels, told God, come on, why are you giving the Jews the Torah? They're only going to sin, they're going to make mistakes, they're going to do other things, right? So there's a difference of opinion. There was a difference of opinion for 2.5 years between the house of Hill and the house of Shammai. And there's a difference of opinion whether man should be created. So they went back and forth, imagine this argument for 2.5 years. Finally, they both agreed it was better man wasn't created. It was better man wasn't created. The fact is, man is created. What do we have to do? We have to look at our actions. We have to be better people. But think about it. Where are all the souls when God plucks them and, cajoles them to, come back to this world, to go into a body? They're under the Kizeh cover, God's heavenly throne. Right? It's really keeping up together all the spiritual worlds when Adam and Eve ate from the tree, right? The tree of knowledge. Rav Chaim of Volozhin, famous student of the Vilna Gaon. Rav Chaim of Volozhin brings down in Nefesh HaChaim, famous work Nefesh HaChaim, literally the soul of life. And most people only learn the fourth gate. The fourth gate's about the importance of learning Torah. All the other gates, a lot of people don't learn because a lot of it is very much steeped in Kabbalah. One thing he mentions, right? I mentioned this point many times, but it's always good to repeat good things, right? And that is that a person thinks, that's the very beginning of Nefesh HaChaim. A person thinks what they do doesn't matter. What they do, ramifications, not whatever, doesn't really matter. Why? Because how do we look at ourselves? We look at ourselves as an infinitesimally small speck of cosmic dust, which made you live in a town, in a city, in a state, in a country, right? On a continent, on a planet, in a galaxy, right? We're getting smaller. The person thinks, come on, what I do, really? In God's mind, does it really matter? If a person rips toilet paper on Shabbos, does it matter? Well, obviously God thinks so. Because the person gets it wrong, and if they would get warned, and there was a temple in Jerusalem, they get warned for the right thing, death penalty. Not only get the death penalty, they get spiritually cut off. You will not have a portion of the world to come. Right? No portion of the world to come. So obviously God cares. Obviously our actions matter. But he says, what happened? Adam and Eve ate from the tree. Right? God gave one command. Whatever you do, do not eat from the tree. They ate from the tree of knowledge. It's not what they should have done. But they did. And what did that do? That brought death to the world. Death, as we mentioned many times, is not a Jewish concept. But because of that sin, in order to get the soul healed, right, so to speak, and the soul fixed up, the person has to die. Soul has to get up, has to get judged for what it did and why it did things and all these different things. Okay. Now, why do I mention this? Because Chaim Volozhin says, what happened over here? Adam and Eve ate from the tree of knowledge. They ate from the tree of knowledge. They ate from the tree of knowledge. Now, the tree of knowledge wasn't just an ordinary tree with, pretty fruit, whatever it was. Right, whatever, difference of opinion exactly what it was. Doesn't really matter, but what's the point? The point is, says Rav Chaim of Volozhin, all the spiritual worlds, right? According to Kabbalah, there are 10 spiritual worlds. Each spiritual world, says Rav Chaim of Volozhin, where does it get its nourishment from? Its strength, its ability to be, in that spiritual world. Where does it get it from? The world above it. Where does that world get strength from? The world above that. Where does that, so you go through the 10 spiritual worlds. Where does it get its ultimate strength from? Just what we said over here. Kisei Kabbalah. God's heavenly throne. In other words, his heavenly throne is keeping everything together. Keeping the whole world, physically, spiritually, together. Very good. Now what happened? Chomp, chomp, chomp. Whatever Adam and Eve ate. What happened over here? Right? What happened over here? What happened was all the spiritual worlds went into flux. They went into flux. All messed up, all intertwined. Kind of like a double helix, right? Like a DNA molecule. So imagine, totally intertwined. Very good. How do we fix that? How is that possible to be fixed? Commentaries say, when a person does a mitzvah, you unwrangle a little bit. Do another mitzvah, you unwrangle a little bit more. Right? That's what we're supposed to do. Fix up this world. We messed it up. Got to fix it up. Now, the only time all the spiritual worlds were aligned and they were all together, when was that time? After this? Matan Torah, given to the Torah. That's when the world went back to the way it was for Adam and Eve. That's the way it was. So now, what happened? Mr. S, the evil inclination, the Sultan, whatever you want to call him, angel of death, said, wait a minute. The world goes back to where it originally was. That means the Jews are going to go into Israel. That means the Messiah is going to come. That means my job is over. So what did Mr. S do? Mr. S says, if I do that, if they do that, I'm a goner. God's going to destroy me. Doesn't need me anymore. So what did he do? So he made the Jews sin. How do you make them sin with the golden calf? Right, so the Medrash says, in heaven, he put up a coffin. In the coffin was the coffin of Moshe Rabbeinu. He made it look like Moshe Rabbeinu died. Now, the Jews made a miscalculation when he's supposed to come down. So now they need an intermediary. Where's Moses? Where'd he go? He must not be coming back. So they want an intermediary. Now, the irony of ironies of the sin of the golden calf is, who are the people that sinned? The Evra. Makes multitude. Right? Converts came out of Egypt or wherever they came from. They're the ones who made the mistake. Okay. Right? Maybe they didn't have good conversion classes back wherever they were. I don't know. They made a mistake, a serious mistake. But there's an obvious question. The obvious question is where and how could they think that this calf that spoke, miraculously spoke, is the one that took them out of Egypt? Is the one who's in charge of all the plagues? Mind-boggling. Now the commentary is there, the book of Exodus. Saying, first of all, the Jewish people at that point have seen God face to face. At least for the first of the 10 commandments, first two. Right? Then they died, God brought them back to life. Some say they saw they heard all the 10 commandments, they died, God brought them back to life. Others say no. Others say they heard the first two. And the other 8, they said, Moses, you tell us what he says. Too big an experience for us. Okay. Whatever it is, they see God face to face. They say that a slave woman saw more at Mount Sinai than Yechezkel did, than the prophet Ezekiel. It's an unbelievable experience what happened at Mount Sinai. And all the miracles they witnessed in Egypt and coming out of Egypt and all that. It was a mind-boggling thing. All of a sudden they forget who Moses is. They forget what happens. This is the one that took us out of Egypt. Mind-boggling. Right? Very hard to understand. The commentary is bent over backwards to say that this is not idolatry. Because it's impossible to think they thought this was God. Or they thought that this was intermediary, whatever it was. Impossible. Now, if you look at the verses, see anyone with a very sharp mind, we don't have to be that sharp, but you look at the verses. What do the verses in the book of Exodus say? This is the one who took us out of Egypt. They made a whole holiday for it. What does it sound like? Idolatry. Simple thing is it's idolatry. That's the way it looks. And the commentaries say no for a lot of different reasons. Even though the verse says what it says. Right? So the Karaites will jump up and down now. Right? The ones that don't believe in oral law. They'll say it's idolatry. 100% it was idolatry. So there was something there. Obviously there's something seriously wrong. And God says, I want to wipe them out. He says, Moses, I'll start with you. I'll wipe everyone else out. Moses says, no, you're stuck with us. You're stuck with the Jewish people. So, before that, Exodus chapter 25, verse 8, God wants to dwell amongst the Jewish people. He says, let me dwell amongst you. I.e., in the Mishkan, the tabernacle, very good. How that works, God's infinite. How you put him in a box, okay, good question. It's Kabbalah 101 or 101.8. Right, we're not going to get there. But, what's the point? What is the point over here? And that is that, as we said, commentaries are very bothered over here.
You know what?
They're very, very bothered. Looks like idolatry. 100% looks like idolatry. But you have to ask, how could they fall in so fast? They say it wasn't all the Jewish people, it was just a mixed multitude. Okay, even so. Even so, it's a huge fall over here. But God said, don't dwell amongst the Jewish people. I'm going to wipe them out. So Moses says, fine. We'll make a compromise. And what's the compromise? The compromise is God's not going to wipe them out straight away. If he dwelt amongst the Jewish people, he'd wipe everybody out. So he makes a compromise. What's the compromise? There'll be punishment every year for all generations till the Messiah comes for the sin of the golden calf. Now, what's someone going to ask? We weren't there. Why do we have to pay for it? Our grandparents, why do they have to pay for it? Our great-great-great-great-great-great-grandparents were there. Okay. Yeah. They made the mistake. Wasn't our fault. Totally wasn't our fault. What are we supposed to do? Wasn't our fault. Totally wasn't our fault. Nonetheless, there's collective punishment. How do we know there's collective punishment? Because the Gemara says, "Kol Yisrael Ravim said was there. All Jews are intertwined. Because all Jews are intertwined, someone does something wrong, doesn't really matter. Secular, religious, it all looks bad. It all looks bad. If it's someone religious, it looks worse. Why does it look worse? Because we should know better. Someone grew up as a potato farmer in Idaho, no offense. Anyone's a potato farmer grew up in Idaho. Meaning they grew up knowing nothing about nothing. You can't blame them. They grew up not knowing anything. Okay. Ignorance isn't bliss. There are a number of Torah prohibitions that are death penalty. So you can't say, well, I didn't know. What do you mean you didn't know? How'd you not know? How'd you not know intermarriage was forbidden? I didn't, I thought it was only a good idea. Wasn't really commands, right? There's certain things, You have, what do you call it? Desecration of Shabbos, death penalty. Even death penalty was never given. Because the mission at the end of the first chapter of Makku says, if the Sanhedrin, the Jewish Supreme Court, would have killed somebody once in 7 years or once in 7 years, different opinions, then it would have been called the bloody court. So then, why does Torah say that a person's surely going to die, and death penalty, and this and that? To show how severe it is, even if no one got killed from it. So there are things that are pretty severe. Very, very severe. And therefore what? Therefore you can't say, well, I have a different opinion. I have a different persuasion. It's what my heart tells me. It's to my benefits. Oh, what the Torah says? No, I'm not interested. But you see, there are things that are universal. So you can't go against something, even non-Jews can't go against something that's universal according to the Torah. That's a problem. Doesn't necessarily mean it's death penalty. Some things are. But for a Jew, it's much worse. Much, much worse. So I would say 90% of anything they do wrong, not going to get a free pass. They'll get punished, but won't be as great punishment if they knew what they were doing. Now, the other 10%, they're in serious trouble. Very serious trouble. Because these things are much more severe. So you can't tell me, so you cannot tell me that, well, they didn't really know. Even if they did it, and they were, what's the word? They were brainwashed by society. Society convinced them they were of a different persuasion. Society convinced them they're in the wrong body. Let's say. Can happen. We live in a crazy time. Right? Society will ram it down your throat, saying that's the norm. And you can't say anything against it. Lose your job. Other things. Crazy. It's a crazy thing. Like I say, but I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Yeah? So what could you say? Don't you know the statistics? Right? I'm very big into statistics. Most people know. Aren't you into statistics? Don't you know most people who go through this at whatever level would really wish, and studies have been done on this, they really wish they were straight. They were normal. But what can they do? They're in this body. This is what they feel. This is who they are. Brainwashed. So what's God going to say? I didn't tell you to get brainwashed. I didn't tell you to do that. He said, yeah, but what do you want? Society's so strong. This tremendous peer pressure. This tremendous peer pressure. Okay. You know, when I went to camp many years ago, many years ago. So when I was 15, let's say 15, 16, the guy says that, you got to try everything once. You got to experiment with life. You got to try everything once. So I knew what he meant. So even back then, had a big mouth also. So I said, it's not true. So he said, why not? So I said, I got a great idea. I'll prove you wrong. He says, all right, go ahead. So I said, okay, walk outside the bunk. I said, take 50 steps backwards. Count to 50, wherever, it doesn't matter where you end up. And then run as fast as you can into the bunk wall. They're like, are you crazy? It's not going to do that. Why not? He said, I'll break every bone in my body if I do it right. Or a lot of them. I said, but you just said you can try everything once. Okay, so I know what they meant. Some people, by the way, have got addicted to things and, other things. Not by peer, well, I shouldn't say not by peer pressure, probably by peer pressure, but why? Why? Because they want to try it, to see. See what it's like. What does it feel like? That's how they get sucked in. I'm not saying by everybody, by any stretch. But that's the power of society. That's the power of peer pressure. So now, no one thinks, deep down, no one believes this ox took them out of Egypt. They wanted a physical manifestation, a physical representation. Now, what does that sound like? Sounds like idolatry. Give it something that doesn't have power. Give it power. Right? That's why sorcery, the Gemara says, weakens the heavenly throne. How can anything weaken the heavenly throne? In spiritual terms. Right? That can't happen in spiritual terms. But how does that weaken God in this world? How is that possible? What's the answer? Because the more garbage you do, the less godliness people see. Or whether it's not you or it's someone else or whatever. That weakens God's power in the world. Doesn't mean he doesn't have power. Because you live in a world where a lot of people say, I don't believe in God. They're atheists. Okay. We live in a very cynical world today. Right? We're living in a world, the Torah says, Hester b'toch Hester ponim. Hiddenness within hiddenness. Hard to make sense out of almost anything. And the crazier it is, the more people do it. It's more common. Because they go on, how much worse can it be? There are places no different than Sodom. We're not living in Victorian England. It's craziness. Now, what does all that do? And what is our purpose in the world? Every person, Jew or non-Jew, what's their purpose? Bring godliness to the world. To attach themselves to God. That's the purpose. Oh, someone's going to ask, how do you do it? How is it possible to do? Or didn't God give us instructions? He gave us a book. Called the Torah. He manufactured it himself. Passed it down from Moses to us. Very good. So you say, oh, how do I know it's the same Torah? This, that. Okay, we're not going there. We'll just say he passed it down to Moses. Moses gave it to us. Very good. So he told us how to do it. He told us what to do. You choose not to do it. Okay. You have different outlook, different persuasion, this, that. The Torah is pretty clear. The Torah is very clear. What's permissible, what's not permissible. There are a lot of details. Okay. A lot of details. They have to know the details, but there are plenty of things that are clear cut. That are clear cut. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter what society says. There are things pretty black and white. Black and white. Now, person wants to go against that. Person wants to reinvent the wheel. Think they know better, whatever. That weakens God's power in the world. Because the only way to strengthen God's power in the world is to do what he says. Absolutely, to do what he says. That's our obligation. Right? That's our obligation. Right? We have no choice. You know, we have no choice. What are we supposed to do? So there are ramifications. There are ramifications for what we do, which nobody wants to hear. But there are ramifications. So doing the wrong thing weakens God's power. People don't see God in the world. But even then, that's not so true either. Why? Right? The Gemara says it weakens his power. It weakens the kingdom of heaven. Right? Whatever that means. But see, at the end of this week's part, the beginning, the parsha, we get into the story of Abraham. How did Abraham come to believe in God? Abraham either came to the belief in God at the age of 7, the age of 3 or the age of 40. All right, it's a difference of opinion. But what happened? He saw a world of design, and he saw there must be a creator even before God spoke to him. Right? Everyone was an idol worshiper, and everyone said, they had their pocket God. Here's Bob, don't leave home without him. Everyone's got their pocket God. And he says, no, there is only one God. He has no image. He's got no form. There's only one God. Very good. And he convinced them. And it says he brought out all these souls from Haran. What souls? Right? He converted the men. Sarah converted the women. Right? Exactly what they became. If they were Noahites or Jews, they weren't Jews yet, but right, then the whole question, what happened to them? Well, Abraham left. Some of the commentaries say Abraham left. They didn't have a leader anymore. They disappeared. Disappeared. This is a very good reason, just as a side point. This is a very good reason why everybody needs direction. Everyone needs someone to go to. Get questions answered. Get proper direction. Because if you don't have that, then a person winging it on their own, so to speak. They think they know better, and what happens? They go to oblivion. They disappear spiritually, or their families will disappear. Right? It's just a matter of time, because you don't have direction. Now, a person can say, even with direction, it could happen. Yeah. Yeah, but if a person has direction, usually that shouldn't happen. But even so, people think, that, they ask a rabbi a question, let's say, they get an answer, and things don't turn out the way they think. Or the way they want. They say, see, it must be wrong. Doesn't mean it was wrong. Doesn't mean he missed the boat. What happened to all the rabbis during the Holocaust that said, nah, you don't have to worry, this is a passing thing? right? You know, with Yamach Shemoy V'Zichroy, his name be blotted out, may rot wherever he is, right? Some of them saw it, most of them didn't see until it was too late, right? Sorry, most of them saw it, when it was already too late. What happened? What happened to all their knowledge? What happened to their closeness to God? The gods, should have told them or hinted to them what was going on. So what can happen? God can turn the minds backwards. For what purpose? God wanted all these people killed. He wanted them not just killed, massacred. There's a claim against Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Yochanan ben Zakkai, one of the great Torah leaders, time of the Second Temple. And, temple's getting destroyed. He sneaks out. They put him in a coffin. And he sneaks out, goes to the head of Rome. And he asks for three things. Right? He asked for three things. Save Rabbi Gamaliel and his family. Right? Rabbi Tzadok, who was fasting for 40 years. Right? And the wise people of Yavne. Right? The Chachamim of Yavne. Those are the three things he asked for. Gemara says, God turned his mind backwards. Talking about like the Torah giant of the generation. What do you mean turn it backwards? Because why didn't we ask for that? Why didn't he ask the temple should be saved? Why didn't he ask for something much greater? Why didn't we ask for those three things? One simple answer. Simple answer is they're just, they're going to destroy it. Why should he think they're going to save it? Why would they listen to him that they're going to save it? So let me save the Nazi and his family, the exilarch, so to speak. Let me save him, his family. Rav Tzadok, the wise people of Yavne. At least there'll be some level of continuation. But the Gemara takes him to task. The Gemara says his mind was backwards. He didn't ask for the right thing. But why didn't he ask for the right thing? Because God didn't help him put it in his mind. He wanted the temple destroyed. He wanted the Jews to go to oblivion. Or not totally, but go in exile. They deserved to go in exile. So nothing anyone was going to do was going to stop it. One of the rabbis went up to heaven, the heavenly court, and said, let me use in the ineffable name of God, I could stop the destruction. Heavenly court said, survey says, not happening. They took his soul, put it back in his body, that was it. They said, this is the decree, this is what's going to happen, finished. So no matter what a person does, if there's a divine decree, unless the person is able to open the doors to tremendous compassion by God, decree is a decree. Now it'll depend if it's in blood, if it's not. Because if you have a decree in blood, that means death. Right? Means death. If there's a decree not in blood, then the decree can be overturned. But you have to remember one thing. Even if there's a decree, right? You have the 10 days of repentance. You have Yom Kippur. You have the Hoshana Rabbah, right? The final kvittel, the final din, the final judgments. Some say even until Hanukkah. If there was a bad decree, it can be overturned even by then. So we're going to turn over the world, try and fix things. If there's been a bad decree. Right? Make sure there are no bad decrees. But what can happen? We can do all kinds of things. I mentioned this last night in Pirkei Avos. We can do all kinds of things. We can say Perek Shira for 40 days. Even on Shabbos, which is a good omen for livelihood and shidduchim. Get married. Meet our prospective mate. Have someone tell me, I did that. 40 days, my financial situation got worse, and I didn't meet anyone. But my answer was, you keep doing it. But just because a person does certain things, they go to, let's say, certain graves of certain rabbis or whatever, not praying to them, obviously, that in their merit they should get their salvation, whatever it is. Now, is that a guarantee? It's a good thing. Same Parshas Aman, good thing. Right? In Parshas B'Shalach, you read the whole portion about the manna falling from heaven. Also good for a parnasa. Also good for a livelihood. Yeah, is that a guarantee things are going to change? It's not a guarantee. And what happens if, like, you feel you're getting, like, squeezed, like no tomorrow, like the bottom of the toothpaste, and you're down to your last $1.50, and you're like, well, what's going to be? What in the world's going to be? Get all these things you got to pay. What's going to happen? So what happened all the times that Perek Shira? What happened all the times that Parshas Aman and all the Tehillim? What's the mistake some people make? That's all they have to do. That's going to be an instant fix. Well, guess what? There are other things going on. There might be other blocks in heaven. I told the story, what happened to me. Right? I was involved in real estate, doing everything other people were doing. They were all making money. I wasn't. Rabbi said, yeah, there must be a block in heaven. Told me a certain thing to do. Right? Do a Torah Nedarim. Nullification of vows with all the curses. You might have a curse up there, whatever. He said, tell me what happens afterwards. And all of a sudden, like, within a few weeks, like, the heavens opened up. It took me a while to finally close the deal, whatever, but, like, things changed. I asked him, how'd you know? I asked him, how is that possible to know? So what did he tell me? He told me, if you're doing everything possible, like everybody else, they're making money and you're not, there's a block in heaven. There's some sort of block in heaven. Because if you're trying to do if you're doing what everyone else is doing, and this thing works in every market, which it does, right? How to find, buyers and sellers, put them together, and you make a fee, you don't use your own money, whatever, the whole thing. Yeah. People are making money. I used to hear a couple, calls during the week. We'd go on these calls. People could ask their questions to this, real estate guru, whatever. I wasn't hearing road scholars over here speaking. Definitely did not sound like, road scholars to me. And they're making money. I'm like, this doesn't make sense. Again, I veered off after a while doing other things. But while I was doing this, put up the same crummy signs, crying up on telephone poles, this, that, did the same thing, and nothing was going. Nothing was going. And then I got the final laugh after things started to move and, everything else. And then, the market crashed, right, in 2008. God's irony. But okay, that's what got me back to Israel. Whatever. But, so he told me to do that. That opened up doors. Now, what would happen if it didn't? What would have happened if it didn't? I would have gone back to him and say, didn't work. There's something missing here. Could be. Then he would have gone through, other details of my life. What are you doing with this? What are you doing with that? Other things. These things are not a quick fix. Maybe, maybe something's more, maybe, whatever. But if there's a decree, let's make clear. If there's a decree, something's supposed to happen to a person. Now, doesn't say to him repentance help, sure. Doesn't say Perek Shira and these other things happen. They should. They should help. But I want to ask the $1 million question. The $1 million question is, how do you know that there's something else going on? How do you know? You don't know. So all the things you're doing, God's saying, okay, I want more prayer. Right? The Torah says, at the end of last week's Parshas Noah, the Torah says by Sarah, or Sarai, before God changed her name, that shouldn't have any children, right? It says that it uses double statement to say she shouldn't have children. All the Torah needed to say was you didn't have children. Finished. Well, I have to use a double statement. Because according to nature, it was not possible for her to have children. Impossible. So the fact that God changes her nature and she gets pregnant at 90 years old, okay, right? Pretty big miracle here. So why did God do that? Why did he create her that way? And you see by Rivka, you see by Rachel, they all had difficulty getting pregnant. And these are the builders of the Jewish people. So what happened? So what the commentaries say? God loves the prayers of the righteous. What do you mean he loves the prayers of the righteous? How is that an answer? God wants people to suffer. God forbid, in order that what? In order that God should hear their prayers, their suffering. Most women come in contact with a few, but most women want to have kids. They want to have kids naturally. I know somebody knew that, biological clock ticking, wasn't going to get married anytime soon. They had a child in vitro, raising a child by themselves, right? Still don't think they're married. But, I had somebody once tell me, is it bad that I didn't want to have kids? It's unnatural. In the bigger scheme of things, a woman wants to have a child. Today, okay, maybe a different thing, but according to the Torah, it's pretty clear. Not even according to the Torah, according to nature. Very strange. You're going to hear somebody say, a woman say, perfectly healthy woman, to say, I don't want to have kids. Not interested in having kids. It's unnatural. It's unnatural. Yeah. So, as we said, we live in a wacky world here. According to the Torah, this is the norm. This is the norm of every woman. I get women saying, not for me. It was against their whole nature. Heard a story of a secular Jew, nothing from nothing, right? But made fun of this fact, this idea. Having kids, raising kids. He wasn't interested. He's married, okay, but he didn't want to have kids. No responsibility, nothing. He lives for himself. 3 people, him, himself, and himself. Maybe for his spouse also. They want to see the world. They want to be dragged down by kids. Too expensive, other problems. Okay. Really could care less what he has to say, but this is kind of ironic. See, even non-Jews have an obligation to be fruitful, multiply, and have kids. Now, they can have, a kid every 10 years, other things. Okay, it's a lot easier by now. But why? Why is there an obligation to have kids? So you have kids in the world. Right? You have places in the world that have negative population growth, or very little population growth, or zero population growth. So you know what's going to happen? You have no next generation. You get no workers for this place. Everyone's going to die out. This is what's happening in certain places. So it's unnatural. Now, it could be in certain places, God says, okay, I want to wipe them off the face of the map. How can I do that? Right? So I'll do it in a natural way. They won't have kids. They won't be interested in having kids. It's unnatural. Right? Certainly according to the Torah, but again, according to biology. Again, I'm not talking about women having difficulty in childbirth, other things. Yeah, it's painful. It's a sin of Chava. Blame her for eating from the tree. One of the repercussions is difficulty childbirth. The other repercussion is raising kids. And every generation has their difficulty, whatever they may be. So, the world's a crazy place in a certain way. And we can be influenced in a negative way, totally negative way. But the repercussions can be catastrophic. You're going to say, doesn't really matter what I do. I'm an infinitesimally small speck of cosmic dust. Okay. Well, look what Adam and Eve did. There's only one other time in history that the world got close to that. And that was by giving it the Torah. And then everything went, everyone south after that with the sin of the golden calf. But see, this is what he says over here. He says that the power of the soul and the influence, where does the influence come from? It comes from God himself. So isn't it ironic? See, we don't say we're a religion, if you don't believe in us, you're going to fry in hell forever. Non-Jew can have a portion of the world to come. Very good. Right? They have less things to do. Okay. They can also have a portion of the world to come. And if they were brought up as an idolater or whatever, they, have to repent for that. Otherwise, they're in trouble because that goes against the Noahide laws. But even so, isn't everybody created in God's image? It doesn't say Jews are created in God's image. What does the Torah say? Man is created in God's image. Not Jews. Man. So everybody has a spark inside of them of godliness. Now, a person can choose to do whatever they want with it. Right. Whatever they want. And you see what a good portion of the world is doing with it. So if they have the right direction, they don't get influenced by society, good luck. They have a fighting chance. But anyway, anyone today who goes to public school, finished. No hope for them. Maybe 1 in 1,000, maybe 1 in 10,000. Come out, okay, their head screwed on straight. They come out moral, whatever. Good luck. Yeah. It's a lot worse than certainly was when I was growing up. But even when I was growing up, it's no difference. Now it's just a lot worse. Yeah. But, even many years ago, was a bastion of morality by any stretch. Now it's just it's gone haywire. Absolutely gone haywire. So he says over here, this is the heavenly influence. Everybody can have that influence. The question is what they do with it. And what do most people do with it? Nothing. Not just nothing. They do horrific things. They do absolutely horrific things. Well, we see what the world is. We see what people are capable of. But it doesn't start out that way. Every baby starts out the same. Right? Different DNA, okay? Right? Different parents, different siblings, if they have siblings, or socioeconomic situation. Okay, there are things that are different. Very good. They all start out the same. They have the same ability to acquire spirituality in the right way if they want it. But you're going to say, look what their parents are, look what they do to them, and and look how they educate them, and all this and all that. Okay. But if the soul comes from underneath the heavenly throne, and God puts the soul in every person, and therefore every person has a message to give out to the world to reach certain potential, and nobody knows what that potential is. Very good. We're not given a choice here. Right? The Mishnah Pirkei Avos says you're born against you will, you die against you will. Right? Kaufman would say in parentheses, you have to live. Very good. You don't have a choice in any of this stuff. They're going to say, but I'm not given a fighting chance. Person was living in, China, they'd be waving the red flag. They're living somewhere else, other things. There's a lot of influence, okay? But who says you have to give in to it? Right? Who says you have to give in to it? I know a lot of people, someone there mentioned about homeschooling, a lot of people starting to homeschool because public school is a sewer. It's an absolute sewer. Value skewed and who knows what, and all the things that are being taught. Not surprising. I would say someone, comes out normal, goes to university and comes out normal. It's a miracle. It's an absolute miracle. And someone, even if they grew up religious, stay religious, also a big miracle. There's a lot of temptation, a lot of things the word to say, but a religious person should have their head screwed on straight, right? They should be all in and they should work hard, right? But isn't it easy to get burnt out? Isn't it easy to feel like, you're spiraling out of control when it comes to, let's say, I don't know, comes to livelihood, comes to health, other things. And then, people don't know what to do and why is God doing this and all that. Yeah, these are good questions. But don't we say every day life's a test? Life is a test. Everyone has them. I mentioned last week in my podcast about suffering. And I mentioned the last time Pirkei was also wealth and poverty are a challenge. Wealth's a challenge, you're gonna help others. You're gonna be stingy. Yeah, you're not gonna be haughty. Poverty is a challenge because you don't have much. You don't have much. Can you thank God and be happy with the little that you have? It's also a challenge. Some would say it's a bigger challenge. Okay. The challenge. Everybody has challenges. But remember, we do whatever we can to want to change, to be better. So someone will say, well, so what do I do? So if I got no opportunity, someone asks, right? So if you have opportunity to repent, what's an example of what can be done? Right? So let me make it very clear. Yeah. I heard a great rabbi once say before Yom Kippur, people look for all kinds of omens, all kinds of segulas. Yeah. They'll pray by this Rebbe. They'll give certain money to charity for certain things. And they think that's going to be the fix. That's going to turn things over. So this rabbi said, I got a better formula. I got a guaranteed formula that's going to help a person in all endeavors. He said, you want to know what that guaranteed formula is? Tshuva. That's what he said. Repentance. That's the formula. What type of repentance? First, you have to do with Zivas Achet. You got to say, I'm going to leave sin behind. Right? Sorry, the second thing. First thing you have to do is have charata. You have to have remorse. You have to regret of what you've done. You got to feel bad. You polluted the universe. Whatever you've done, you got to try and fix that. Not so easy. Then you have to leave the sin behind. Say you're never going to do it again. Make a plan. You're never going to do it again. Then certain things you have to go through Yom Kippur, and that's enough. Other things, maybe, if a person, God forbid, that's great God's name. Right? So then you have to go through Yom Kippur. You have to suffer. Still don't get atonement until you die. That you can't fix till you die. Or what about Ben Adam Chaveru? You did something wrong against someone else. Got to ask them for forgiveness. All the Yom Kippurs, all the fasting, don't do diddly squat unless you ask them for forgiveness. Why? Very simple. You sin against someone else. If it's between you and God, it's one thing. If it's between you and your fellow man, you got to repent. You got to ask them for forgiveness. If they don't grant you forgiveness after a few times, okay, they get the sin. Or do you have to ask them for forgiveness? Because what you did to someone else never gets fixed up unless you appease them. And if a person did to a rabbi, 10 times worse, 100 times worse. Normally we say you go to someone 3 times. If they don't accept forgiveness the 3rd time, then, they get the sin. But if, let's say, a person offended a rabbi, whatever, you go 100 times. You go 1,000 times because sin is much greater. So there are no easy fixes. And, proper repentance, okay. That should, that hopefully should fix things. But let's say even with that, God says it's still a decree. Doesn't repentance fix everything? So for a Jew, you can uproot what you did. And then whatever you did gets erased, and it's like you did a mitzvah over here. You drew yourself closer, right? You drew yourself closer over here. But there's still going to be payback. right? It's not a clean slate, by any stretch. We would love to take a big eraser. I'm not even talking about the worst sins we've done. Take a big eraser and just like take our soul and just like scrub away. That's what a person has to do. Yeah. So how do you know you've been accepted or not? Your repentance has been accepted? Good question. And how do we know when things are going to change? You don't. You don't. In general, if you look the other way, someone did something against you, God will look the other way for what you've done against him. That can help uproot decrease. That for sure can help uproot decrease, but that's kind of hard. Because we don't look at what someone did against us, we don't look at them the same way when they did it. We don't look the same way. But if, so God looks at us and judges us measure for measure. So if we overlook what someone else did, God will overlook what we've done against him. Famous story of Rav Chaim Shmulevitz, blessed memory, famous head of the yeshiva in the Mir in Jerusalem, during the 6-Day War. Israel's getting bombed left and right. They're in a bomb shelter. They hear all the booms around them. This woman gets up, and this woman had suffered a lot. This woman, had a husband refused to give a get, refused to give a bill of divorce. So she's called a aguna. An aguna is someone that she can't remarry. She can't remarry unless he gives her a get, the bill of divorce. It caused a lot of pain, right? She's considered a chained woman. She can't get remarried until he gives the bill of divorce. Now, without going into all that, she stands up. Meanwhile, bombs flying all over the place. She stands up and she says, because this is what Rav Chaim Shmulevitz tells the story. She stands up and mentions her husband's name, says, I forgive you. For all the pain, all this, I forgive you 100% of my heart. Says Rav Chaim Shmulevitz on that. That's seemingly impossible to do. Imagine the pain, the suffering that's been done, in many ways. She looks up to heaven and says, I forgive him with a full heart. Now, is that an easy thing to do? Probably not. Right? Could be that event itself maybe drew coming to the Messiah closer. But it says Rav Chaim Shmulevitz, either case, says Rav Chaim Shmulevitz that he knew after that event, after what this woman said, there's no question that they weren't going to be hung. There was no question that they wouldn't come out of it. Because that's real power. That's Mesiras Nefesh. That's self-sacrifice. This guy, they should have plastered him and, put his name up all over the place, embarrassed him, other things, in order to give a bill of divorce. Should have done a lot of things against this person. Horrific individual. Yeah? When a person suffers like that, you think, for 1 second, that they want to forgive the other person? They don't want to forgive the other person, just the opposite. They want the person to go through unbelievable suffering. Let them at least go through the same suffering you've gone through. Or worse. Right? Now, the problem is bearing a grudge. Can't do that. It's painful. Look what they did. Is it true? Right? Torah's hard here. Right? But what did she do? She opened up the heavens. She pierced the heavens with this statement. You can say, come on. Someone would say, fine, you're talking, hundreds of years ago. People were different levels. No, I'm talking hundreds of years ago. I'm talking 50 years ago, 60 years ago. I'm talking about previous, no, many generations back. Many people were different even then. Still, be an easy thing to say. So today, we live in a cream puff generation. Someone does a little thing against us, forget it. We don't have anything to do with them. That relationship is never the same. That's why repentance is so strong. Why? Because if you're able to overlook what someone else did, see, this is a lack of emunah also. You're going to say, what this person caused? You look at the damage they've done and this and that. Okay. God used them to get to you. So why are you upset? You should be upset at God. He put you in this situation. Person hits a dog with the stick. Who's the dog go after? The stick. Not saying you should hit a dog with a stick, but same thing. Chovos Levova says, duty to the heart, the gate of bitachon, the gate of faith and belief in God. Someone hit your car. You saw a corner of your eye. They had their head in the phone, went straight through a red light, went through a stop sign, whatever. Bam! You don't even have time to react. What's the first thing you do? Let's say, you're just in shock, but you're not, car gets damaged, but nothing else happens. What are you doing? You're running out there screaming at the person. That should be done, right? Weren't they texting while they're driving? Were they not paying attention? For whatever reason, doesn't matter. So you're going to say, I have an absolute right to yell and scream at them. That's what we would think. That's the knee-jerk reaction. Oh, what's the answer? Chovos says, go up and hug them. She said, I want to thank you for working on my anger. Your whole front of your car is smashed. Now the whole thing with insurance, and this person have insurance, and other things, and whatever. All kinds of issues. Let's say there are medical issues. You think a person's thinking, wow, I'm so glad I can work on my anger? They're laid up in bed and they can't move, and they're in pain? Well, I don't think so. I think they're thinking a lot of other things, and each letter starts, each word is a four-letter word. That's what I think. But the whole of others, you might say, he's talking to the righteous generation. Says the whole of others over there, no. Who's he talking to? He's talking to everybody. This is our obligation, right? He's going to say, come on. Who's holding there? That's not even the question. But the question is holding there. He says that's our obligation. This person causes an unbelievable amount of pain. You want to bear a grudge? Torah prohibition. Torah prohibition. You say, well, the Torah's hard. Okay. Torah expects big things. So a person doesn't see they were put in this situation for whatever reason, doesn't matter what. They're put in this situation to toil. You're in this world to toil. So obviously, a person must have done something somewhere, whatever, that this is payback for who knows what. So where's the emunah? Why don't people have proper emunah? Why can't they say, well, I have to work on myself. I have to change. Everyone and their mother will say, get rid of it. Take it away. I don't want the pain. Let me find some way to do it. Sometimes, you know what? You got to roll up your sleeves. You got to put on your boots. You got to work. Torah is about work. It's about efforts. It's about not thinking there are any quick fixes. That's a mistake. That's a mistake. Now, a person will say, well, this doesn't hurt by doing this, right? It shouldn't. It absolutely shouldn't, right? Like I had someone say, it's a parak shir for 40 days. I didn't meet anyone. That's also cool. That might be a little bit different now. But, I didn't meet anyone. My financial situation is worse. So again, let me ask the $1 million question or $2 million question, because we're going to up the ante here. Is that a guarantee? Is saying parak shir a guarantee? No. Why do I say it's not a guarantee? Because there could be other things going on in heaven. God says, nope, not going to work. Not yet. God's like, I'll think about it. We'll see where it goes. We'll see if you're really sincere. Or you're just trying to circumvent a situation. It could be a bad situation. And you want a quick fix. Well, I've been looking for the Cliff Notes for a long time. Right? I used to read Cliff Notes as a kid because I hated reading. Right? And Cliff Notes were easier than reading the book. Whatever book it was, I had a huge collection of Cliff Notes. And, Judaism also, I was like, it's going to be an easier way. There's got to be an easier way, to learn Torah. You know what? There isn't. It's a grind. And it's hard. And you got to put in a lot of effort. And there are no quick fixes. There are no quick fixes. I would say, a person's going through a hard time. You still have an opportunity to Hanukkah. So you say, well, how should I approach Hanukkah? How should I approach that time? Like you would right before Yom Kippur. Because I just worked on Yom Kippur. Just came out of Yom Kippur. Okay. Remember, after everything's done, right? And this would be an interesting question. Let's say a person did something, I don't know, between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. We're in before Rosh Hashanah. Yeah, Rosh Hashanah is a new year. So let's say something got messed up after Rosh Hashanah. So what happened over here? Is it because it's a new decree from Rosh Hashanah? Or just an old decree and it's just coming through? Could be an old decree. Could be Rosh Hashanah didn't fix it. Could be Yom Kippur didn't fix it. Or maybe it's something new. Maybe it's something new. But isn't it payback for something? It's a sure payback for something. Everything's payback for something. Every test is like that. Or every suffering's like that. We just don't know where, when, how, right? So people would ask before Yom Kippur, what should I work on? And what's the answer? Everything. But you have to take it in sound bites. You have to take it in sound bites. Can't take on too much. Whatever you're going to take on, you break it in half, you break it in a quarter. And then break it again in a quarter. You want to be able to do something, fix something. Yeah, a lot of questions here. Let me start dealing with them. Moses asked God not to reveal his spirit among the non-Jews. Yeah, where does it say that? Show me a quote where it says that. Right? Could be meaning God's real essence, but no one knows God's real essence, right? Doesn't God say to Moses, Moses says to God, I want to see your face. God says, no one can see my face and live. Yeah. That would need further clarification. Somebody asks, let me go back here. Someone asks, how do you find the right company to work for? That or like anything else, the person needs mazel. Why do I say you need mazel? Because person buys a car. Even if it's, an older car or an appliance or anything. You need mazel that it should be good. Person can buy a car, let's say B11. Have to replace this, have to replace that, replace the other thing, and it doesn't even have a lot of mileage on it. I know someone had a car a number of years ago. It's like whatever, it wasn't so old. And what happened? You had to replace the entire engine. 11. Right? It can happen. Right? So the question is, how do you know which place is the best to go? You have to see. You have to analyze. You have to try and investigate. How long does the company be around? What are the people like? You can find out, what the people like. Sometimes it's better, to work in a place where there are better people, but there's, even if you're making less money, because it's easy to work with people that you like than you don't like, but so guarantee. You can always find someone you don't like, so to speak. I would say, as the Chol says, you have to find, first of all, you have to find the right thing to do. How do you know what the right thing to do is? What's the right profession? Right? That's a different question. Right? But the Chol says you have to find what you're good at. And stick to what you're good at. Now, there are professions, even if a person's good at it, they don't make money. A person can be an artist. Yeah? Artists struggle. Writers struggle. So you have to do other things in order to put bread on the table. Right? If a person would be, let's say, teachers don't make a lot of money, some more, some less. right? They should definitely be paid like lawyers and doctors, right? Especially in the States, not here. Because they're doing unbelievable work. I just read a short thing where, in a Jewish school, that a woman, there's the whole thing about how, they have better hours, they can be home for their kids, and they have time off before the holidays and this and that. Yeah, but this woman says, I'm not making any money. I'm barely making any money. So like it's not a profession. They left. They end up leaving the profession. Why? There's a shortage of teachers today in religious schools for that reason, because they don't pay well. But it's an important job. No question, it's an important job. Right? So, trying to, work on that and raise the salaries without raising tuition. And, tuition's the biggest killer in America for religious families. Right? The tuition is just outrageous. Even if two parents are working, they're making good money. Most of it goes to that. Then you got, food, car, or a few cars. You got insurance. You got, either a mortgage or rent. So, a person can be idealistic and say, yeah, I want to do this and this is what I'm good at. That's great. Right? That's great. So I want to issue. Whatever doesn't make money. So However the Bible says, stick to what you're good at. Because what happens if you don't stick to what you're good at? What happens is you're resentful. You have all this talent, you can't use it. So I had this also, that, when I lost all my money, I still wanted to do the same thing I wanted to do, but didn't go. Right? A lot of places didn't pay, didn't want to hire. Thought I would outshine them, different things, whatever. So I got involved in real estate. Right? But then the market crashed. So sometimes you got to do things you don't like to do. But that puts money on the table. Right? So I would say, so someone would ask, well, doesn't sound like an easy test, was it? I said, other people do it, they're being supported, they're being helped, and this and that. And this is what I'm good at, why should I be able to do it? What was the answer? Very hard answer to hear. What was the answer? Sometimes you can't do what you want. Sometimes you can't do what you want. You have other obligations. Guys got certainly other obligations. You can be idealistic as much as you want, but you got to put food on the table. Right? You got to put bread on the table. That was a hard test. Very, very hard test. Yeah. Because if you have certain talent, whatever it may be, what if God just takes it away from you? Crushes you into the ground. And you say, but this is what I'm good at. Okay, so you got to make it worthwhile. Yeah. But, it's a hard thing to do. Very, very hard thing to do. Right? Imagine, being told, well, you'd be great for this job, but you sure would be doing this, that, and the other. You should be on the front lines doing this, that. I say, great. I said, find me a job in a place my kids can have education. I don't pay enough. I'm not looking for the moon. Cover my expenses. I heard people say, I'd rather train someone much younger. They don't have to pay as much. It's not going to outshine me. I'm just looking for a position. Not looking to outshine anyone, do anything. Much harder. Much, much harder. So, got involved in real estate. And that was, disaster also in different ways. So, like, it's God's irony. Times I do things I didn't like. Okay, so I had no choice. Or felt I had no choice, but I was still doing some things I did like. So, then, I was working for a company here, and a bunch of layoffs, and myself included. I'm like, I don't get it. I did what I didn't want to do for a year. Probably took off 2 years of my life. Yeah, and I couldn't even get unemployment because it wasn't there long enough. So went full force back into my classes and doing different things. God took care of it in 2 weeks, making more money than I was back then. At this job I didn't like. Now, someone will ask me the $3 million question. So what changed? Don't know. My wife said, "You want to do this? You got to do it like a job. 8 hours. You got to put in, make videos, this, that." I said, "Okay, I give it a month." So I give it a month. Right? I'll see where it goes. And I had no dreams it was, it's going to take off like it did. None. None. 2 weeks. 2 weeks, I'm still getting benefit from that years later, number of years later. I can't say what changed. I don't know. Maybe my prayers changed. Maybe my outlook changed. Maybe, going through hopes and levels changed. Just relied on him. Relied on God. He's the one in charge. Right? Because that essentially was my answer. I said, I did something I didn't want to do. I didn't like what I was doing. I said, "You're the one in charge. I don't know what you want here." No idea what you want here. So I threw up my hand staff and those are my prayers. And they say, "Well, that must have been the difference." I can't answer. I don't know what the difference was. But that changed. Things always been rosy and everything's been great, but he's the one in charge, no matter what. So you have to have mazel for a company also. It's ironic. This company I work for is one under. I mean, I wouldn't say under, but they they basically fired all their staff, most, just about all their staff here. They still have a company in the States, but whatever. My whole thing shut down. They had women working in the morning and some guys working at night. And then it's boom. I think it was last year, whatever it was. So you can say this company's been around for a long time. The real estate business, this and that. Yeah, they'll come back. Sure, they'll come back at some point. Stronger. But you can work for a company, someone comes, takes it over, and runs it into the ground. Company you've been at for a number of years. You gotta say what happened. You can't foresee that. That's not something you can foresee. All the research you'll do won't show that. So, I would say, better places to work would be companies that are established, been established for a long time. I know, it's kind of hard to be part of a startup, especially today, right? But, you have to have muzzle here. I would say the longer the company's been around, so the more, whatever's going to happen, they'll still be around. But, it also depends on the economy. Economy, no great shakes either. But, a person has to love what they do, or at least they have to like what they do. If they don't like what they do, then, either they're in the wrong profession or they're doing the wrong thing. But sometimes, even if you're doing something you don't like, you have no choice. You feel you have no choice. Okay, so that's a temporary thing. So at least in my case, at least doing things I didn't like necessarily. I had learning for a certain amount of time. Every day, even when I was involved in real estate, first 3 hours a day, that's what I was doing. And I dealt with real estate, and I was giving some classes here and there. But that's where all my enjoyment was doing other things, not, speaking of buyers and sellers and all that. But, extremely frustrating. There's one thing, you go out there, you try, you don't succeed, okay. But then then you do, and then it gets taken away. It's hard, right? It's very, very hard. So again, I would say, find a company, whatever field it is. You want to make sure they're established, been around for a long time. No guarantee who you work with either. People come and people go, but you want a better work environment also. But that's kind of hard to see unless you speak to people. Unless you speak to people in the company. Who work there. you have to try and get a feel for, what they expect and, who the boss is and what the demands are and a lot of different things, right? Is it fast paced? Is it crazy? Are there unrealistic, expectations? There are people that, thrive on working on commission, right? Because when you work on commission, you got to work hard to make money. You don't get a salary, right? So sometimes it's better to get a salary, even if you make less, at least you're getting something, giving a percentage back than having to do it on your own. But on the other hand, if you do it on your own, you make more money. So it's catch 22. Catch 22, right? Any field you're in like that, you're in a catch 22 because you always have to fish for clients. And how are you going to find clients? Different ways to do it. Okay, but like you want something consistent. So some people will be happy you're just getting a salary. At least they know how much is coming in every month. So at least, I had this other job. Okay, it wasn't great, but I knew, more or less, what was coming in. So like, and it was consistent. Okay. That's worth something. That's for sure worth something. Other people like to have their own hours, be more flexible, this and that, and sometimes you can't. Right? But if it's a business where you have to sell things, then you gotta be good at what you do. Because, it's hard. You have to go through gatekeepers and other things, and it's hard. Difference is, someone's giving leads and this and that. You can do all the advertising. There could be different things going on. It doesn't bring people in. It's another issue. It's another issue. That's why people will be happier. I think in some ways, at least they know what's guaranteed. Even if it's less. Yeah, but again, you have to make ends meet somehow. Right? So a person will say, well, I'm in a field that makes less money, so how can I just do what I want? So, okay, so you got to find something that's going to make ends meet if you want to do that. But, no one's going to tell you go in this field to get, see if you can stick it out. It's hard. I know somebody that, whatever, is in sales, different things, and, they struggled for a long time. Probably still are struggling in different ways. Had a big hit, did very well, paid back a lot of things, but like, it's kind of hard to live that way. And you go to places, you can't stay in hotels, sleep in a car, different things. I mean, it's hard. But again, you have a more flexible schedule. And this is what you're good at. You facilitate and you make connections very good. Well, what's the problem in real estate? It's closing things. Now it's much harder because you need the interest rate's so high, in the States. There are plenty of people making money in real estate also. But, read an article recently, somebody started out and, and bottom line, they have to stick it out. There are better times, worse times, and even when it's bad, whatever, still things to do. You make a nice chunk of money, and then when things go sour a little bit, so you got what to rely on, what to fall back on, and then things will turn eventually. I mean, there are cycles. And sometimes people just go on their own because they don't want to work for someone else. They don't want to give someone, a percentage. Someone did that as a locksmith. They learned the business, this and that. Then eventually they went on their own. Whatever, struggled also, but doing all right now. So sometimes it's easier, working on your own, but people don't want to do that. It's just you gotta hustle. You have to hustle. That's what it is. So if you're gonna work for a company, so you want to do research on the company. Again, how many employers they have, how long they've been around. There've been firings, and anytime, downturns, whatever. That's what I would say on that. Someone asked about what to do before Hanukkah that I answered. Someone here, man's teachers definitely don't make a lot, but somehow it works out. Yep. Listen, you do what you want to do. God takes care of the rest. We can say sometimes easier, sometimes harder. Yeah. It comes to Passover, for instance, people know they make a certain amount. What do? They put money away. They try and put money away because Passover, everything's 3 times the price. So what do? Right? You gotta eat matzah. Yeah. So you can't skimp on that. So whatever, when things are more expensive, you have much more expenses. So you gotta try and prepare for that. It's not so easy. Definitely not so easy. Especially in downturn. But again, any of these things when it comes to livelihood is a good example. You don't know, you have no idea what can change and how things can change overnight. So when I say overnight, I mean overnight. Like, imagine someone you haven't spoken to in like 2 years. All of a sudden they walk through the door. They walk through the door. They haven't spoken, haven't heard boo from this person in 2 years. Now all of a sudden they're ready to give you all this business. Out of nowhere. It's not out of nowhere. God takes care of business. Yeah, no pun intended. And normally the case is where you least expect it. That is normally the case. Again, someone's got, a specific thing that they do, and either the salaried or, been in the field for many years and they have connections, different things. All these things are good. Remember one thing, God's the one in charge. Yeah. So even with all the connections and different things and how things should go, whatever, if God doesn't bless it, even if you take on a second side business, let's say, person took on a second side business, and according to nature, that side business should go. According to nature. What are there other things going on? There's upheaval, where they live. Yeah. There are other things going on, but there's a major X factor. What's the major X factor? It's God himself. And if he wants it to go, it'll go. If he doesn't want it to go, no matter what you do, it won't go. So what do you do in that situation? In every situation, it's the same. Every situation, you're going to pray and you're going to say, you're the one in charge. I'm putting my best foot forward, and that's it. You're going to say, but sometimes I feel like we're getting squeezed. Okay. So you pray harder. You say more daily. You do whatever you can. Right? You don't give up. I mean, it's very easy to give up. Very easy to give up. But at the end of the day, he's the one in charge. So you're going to say, okay, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I'm putting my best foot forward. I don't know what you want over here. Right? That's what you have to say. Those are the words. You should say them. Or could be that's what changed by me. Because when I said those words, things changed. Could be the first time. Had to acknowledge this. God says that's why I put you in this position. I wanted you to acknowledge it's all in my hands. Now again, if you would have asked me, even today, if you would have asked me what are the odds of what happened, I would say 0. 0. Right? If I would go according to all the years up until this point, I would have said, I give myself a month maximum. Maximum. What did God do? Turned it overnight. Overnight. Again, it could be that's the answer. I'm not saying it is. Maybe. God says, I wanted you to acknowledge I'm in charge. I wanted you to acknowledge that. Now you finally acknowledge that you got the message. I'm going to open doors now. Could be. Definitely change the way I pray, no question about it. Yeah, because you're dependent on him. All these other things don't matter. Right? At the end, in Chovos Levavos, in Shar Cheshbon Nefesh, he gives 30 different ways to take a self-accounting. The last thing he says, pretty amazing. The last thing he says is, you have to realize one thing. No man or woman in this world has any effect on you. You say, what do you mean? Walk in the street, someone says something, you have to rely on people. No. What's the Chovos Levavos say? Chovos Levavos says they are not in control. They are absolutely not in control. God's the one in control. So essentially, no one in the world matters. If no one in the world matters, it's just you and God in this world. That's what he says. He goes further. What's the question? What's the obvious question? What do you mean? So why'd you create man? Why'd you create all of mankind? That would be the question. If man can't do anything without God's, allowing them or not allowing them, whatever the case is, they have no effects. If they have no effect on your life, what's going on? Says the Chovos Levavos, because the world is made up of you and God. You and your connection to God. That's it. Everything else, background noise. But this person hurt me, this person, whatever it is, they don't have any effect unless God wants them to. Yeah. So a person walks down the street openly looking like an Orthodox Jew. Yeah. Person prays God, you're the one in charge. Just me and you. Now, if you want, and someone's going to make fun and say things and whatever and attack you, that's what God wanted. Because they all, but you dress a certain way. No. If God doesn't want to happen, it will not happen. There'll be divine protection. You're going to say, but you're a fool for doing that. You can say what you want. Bottom line, God is protecting. Or you can say, no, I want this person to suffer this way, that way. Doesn't matter what you do, right? You're going to suffer anyway. So it's not like, oh, you're being a fool. You're not being a fool. Because if God wants you to be protected, you'll be protected. If he doesn't want you to be protected, you won't be protected. But these people can't do diddly squat. They can't do anything. Either way, unless God allows them to. So therefore, everything else is background noise. So why does this person do this, do that? Because God wanted you to feel whatever you need to feel. To go through whatever you need to go through. I'm not answering why. We don't know why. But he wanted you to go through it. So no one else has an effect. They should not have an effect. But you're going to say you're affected by your environment, you're affected by what people say, you're affected by what you see. Very good. But if you were really in tune, what you should do, these things should have an effect at all. What people say shouldn't matter. And you have to look at them like they're, mentally challenged. I'd say retarded, but, they'll ban me on YouTube for saying that, right? So someone's mentally challenged. Okay. I don't care what a mentally challenged person does. They slobber over you. They push you around, this, that. Okay. They're mentally challenged. They have an IQ of a 4-year-old. Okay. No offense to any 4-year-old out there. Right? They have an IQ like a 4-year-old. You got someone who's much older and they do stupid things and say stupid things. Okay, they also have an IQ of a 4-year-old, spiritually speaking. Gonna care what they say? I care what they say. They say sometimes it's painful. Okay, so you gotta work on your emunah. God's using them to get to you. Okay, so I care what they say. Doesn't matter how many years they said it, what they've done. It doesn't matter. Yeah, but people are affected by what people have said. Just heard a story, right? I think I heard a story. I read a story. Yeah, somebody's a child was whatever, embarrassed in public or something happened, and they spiraled out of control after that. The Judaism went out, when, they go down and it finished. Oh, yeah, the story I heard, whatever, some rabbi embarrassed him. Totally embarrassed him. Yeah. Yeah. So he got embarrassed. And someone actually was able to bring him back. Years later. But that person got destroyed. Can't have claims one way or the other. Person got destroyed. Right? So, I can't say, well, sticks and stones. This is a hard thing. It's a very, very hard thing. We get all caught up in this. Got to be stronger. 100%. Got to be stronger. It's hard. Somebody asks, what will happen to the fallen angels in the future? There's no such thing as fallen angels. We don't believe in fallen angels. Fallen angels do not have free will. The only question is by the Nephilim, right? By the Nephilim, they fell because the angels were in the body of a human. And they said, if you put us in human form, we won't be like mankind. God says, yeah, you will. So he said, test us. God said, okay. So he stuck an angel in the body. So again, I mentioned this many times. What is an angel inside of a body? Are they an angel or are they human? Don't they have human characteristics? Yes. Isn't their soul trapped in there? Yes. Right? Or whatever, their being, let's say. The angel is trapped. Are they human or not? They have human characteristics. As powerful as his angel is, he's in human form. So if he's in human form, he's not an angel. He's more like a human. So therefore, it's not a fallen angel. Can't be an angel in that sense, because angels don't have free will. Right? Don't make that mistake. Angels do not have free will. Since angels don't have free will, the fact they're in the body, you say, oh, they fell. Are they an angel at this point? What are they? They're not an angel at this point. They're an angel in the human body. What is that? It's a human. Or they have human-like characteristics. But they have human characteristics. Not, if they were a full-fledged angel, they don't fall. There's no such thing as them falling, because they don't have free will. I heard a lecture says that they will be rectified. I don't know. I don't know what you heard, but we don't believe in fallen angels. I heard in the future, people will even name their children with the names these recited fallen angels. I don't know where you're getting that from. Do religious schools teach science and technology or some kind of occupation? Some will, kids will get some sort of, degree or whatever later. Maybe take classes at night, different things. That might be, a lot of places like that. Or if someone wants to go on further, do something. Doesn't mean you need a college education for that, right? That's a big misnomer, right? If I wanted to be, let's say, I don't know, I want to be a graphic artist. Do I have to go to college for that? No. Real estate, good example. Or the ones that go into real estate. No, they don't need a degree for that. I mean, you need knowledge, but you don't need a degree for, they're not teaching you that. You have to learn that on your own, right? You have to learn that on your own. So some religious schools, will have certain tracks. Certainly for girls will be like that. Or they'll go to college, right? And get a degree in whatever. Get a teaching certificate or something or whatever. Boys a little bit different. They'll be in yeshiva till they get married. Maybe they'll learn a couple years after they're married, or maybe longer, and then they have to get a job, so they'll figure out what they need to do. But schools are not teaching them what to do. Most schools, right? Unless it's, let's say it's a modern Orthodox school. If it's modern Orthodox, then they have a whole curriculum. Then they'll have a whole secular curriculum. Okay. That's a different issue. Not the Orthodox schools, not that way. Definitely not that way. Someone asked, since Adam ate from the tree, now if humanity is on a quest to return the world, right? Got to fix up Adam's sin. Question is, where did all the deficiencies in our character traits come from? I had to blemish everyone's character traits. Well, what's the answer? Come on, you know the answer to that. What's the answer? Simple answer is, what did he do? He took the evil inclination, put it inside of himself. So if he put the evil inclination inside of himself, isn't that harder? He's got different types of desires, different things going on inside all his thoughts or her thoughts, right? So if that's the case, he brought that upon mankind. Everything was outside of him at that point before he ate from the tree, right? He understood things were bad or intrinsically bad, but it wasn't part of him. It wasn't affecting him on a daily basis. Having all these constant thoughts and different things. Once he ate from the tree of knowledge, that opened up doors. Opened up a lot of doors, bad doors. Open up, other doors also that aren't necessarily bad. But all God wanted. So essentially, eating from the tree brought all these things inside of himself. And because it brought everything inside of himself, problem. Very big problem. So man acting on, on their evil inclination. And remember, it's good inclination, evil inclination. Both fight to the death, right? Till the person dies. It's always a constant battle. Person gives into to the good inclination, elevates the body, elevates the soul. You go against your evil inclination, you debase the body, debase the soul. Yeah. So because of the evil inclination, then we have all kinds of desires. Some are good, some are bad, but the evil inclination wants you to go against, go into, the physical, do things that you shouldn't do. Convince you of things, convince you of agendas, different things. That's what it brought to the world. That's what it brought to the world. So, so the inclination fights each other, of course, it's a battle. What does the good inclination want you to do? Study Torah, learn, be more moral, right? Don't speak Lashon Hara. That's what the good inclination wants. The evil inclination says kick back, sip a beer, have a pina colada, go watch football, watch a movie. That's what the evil inclination wants. Wants you to go against what the Torah says, right? And it wants to destroy you. That's its job. It wants to try and convince you to do the wrong thing. Constant battle till you die, right? That battle never ceases. Now, when a person's older, there's certain things you can't do anymore because your body doesn't allow. But what can a person have when they're older? What do they go through? What do they fight for? Honor. They fight for honor, or we call kavod. Rabbi once told me, ain't shir kavod. It's no limits. But you get the honor. Remember someone was telling me about somebody that, they have two kids, don't have really so much enjoyment from them, which I don't know exactly. I mean, it must bother them to some extent. But you know what? They get all the kavod. They get all the honor. Plenty of money, prestige. Yeah. Although, that's a good part of the evil inclination. So the evil inclination fights the good inclination. Right? So the Gemara says, create the evil inclination. God says, create the evil inclination, but I created an antidote. What's the antidote? Torah. But in order to overcome the evil inclination, you need God's help with that. Okay. But it fights us every day. I mean, the world today, 100% is a cesspool. That's what it is. Now, there are good things going on. A lot of Torah being learned, communities, Jewish communities, a lot of places bursting at the seams. Unbelievable. There's a lot of garbage also. A lot of garbage. In Israel's the land of extremes. You got the greatest holiness in the world here, even though the temple's destroyed. Right? And you got people that worship devil, worship the devil here. And you got people that don't know anything. Nothing from nothing. So where you have the greatest spirituality, you got the greatest amount of impurity, same time. So it's a constant battle. So how do you do that? How do you fight it? The only way you can fight is Torah. So the problem is that everyone thinks they're a Monday morning quarterback. Everyone knows everything about everything. You think, come on, your face is in the books, all about God, all about making blessings and keeping Shabbos and this, and they drive you up a wall. So you know what? You can't listen to these people. They'll destroy you. Right? It's a very big test. Very, very big test. Because you're going against the grain of the rest of the world. Because the rest of the world will tell you, come on, relax, sip a pina colada, let's go out and have fun. Let's kick back. What's the problem? Right? They'll think you're out of your mind. I'm not saying you are. I mean, maybe you are. I don't know. But in general, they'll try and convince you that you're like you're crazy. Like someone once said, someone said to them, "Well, isn't there life? Isn't more to life than the God and prayers and this and that?" So I said, the answer is no. There's nothing more important than that, and learning and trying to be a better person. Nothing more important than that. We just get sucked into all the other things that are, I don't have to use my brain so much. It's fun. Maybe it's not totally forbidden. Other things, okay. right? But it's a constant battle. It's a constant battle. Yeah, so you should pray these people leave you alone. Because that's exactly what they want. They want you to be more like them than the other way around. Right? That's what they want. That's essentially what they want. And that's a hard thing. That's for sure. That's for sure. That's for sure a hard thing. That for sure is a hard thing. But everyone goes through it. Everybody has a difficulty. A guy's got to pray 3 times a day. Guess what? It's not so easy to pray 3 times a day. Your mind's distracted. We get distracted, all kinds of things. Sometimes better, sometimes not. But, it's normal. Person shouldn't think, oh, guess what? You're really having a hard time and no one goes through this, no one goes through the struggle. It's not true. Right? Totally not true. Right? It's a constant battle, day in and day out. What do you think? Come on. You're going to study, tax law and this and that, and like everyone's going to give you a free ride. No one's going to bother you. You're dressed to kill in a modest way. They're going to think you're out of your mind. For sure, they're going to think you're out of your mind. I said, come on, you have to believe it. Come on, be normal. It's normal. That's normal. And 100% it's normal. Right? Sometimes the best socialization is being by yourself. Because other people drag you down. Right? I mentioned last night, in Pirkei Avos, there's certain things that take a person out of this world. Right? One of them I didn't get to because I'm still talking about the evil eye, but one of the things it says is the evil inclination. Now, simple explanation is that you give in too much to your evil inclination. Not necessarily talking, a person's going to abuse drugs and other things and, and gamble, and lose everything. No, I'm not necessarily saying that. But the evil inclination can destroy you. But wouldn't it be much easier to go socialize, have fun, so to speak? Yeah. Let loose a little bit. What's the problem? What's the problem? The problem is they'll destroy you. They'll make your resolve much weaker. So you got to be strong as fire. Yeah. You got to fend them off. That's what you got to do. Or just don't speak to them. Because they will destroy you. It's very easy to get sucked into things. Very easy. And then once you do that, the evil inclination has to feel they see. You gave in. You're going to hear me, screaming in your ears now. And you're going to say, oh, I can't believe I did that. And I gave in. And God's never going to forgive me. There's no repentance. And what should I do? That's what the evil inclination is going to do. The evil inclination is going to rip you to shreds. I don't need to give the evil inclination a pat in the back. Evil inclination is very good at what it does. Very, very good at what it does. So that being said, you got to fight against it. Because if not, it will destroy you. It will destroy you. It's family, it could be good friends, whatever. They are going to poison you. They will poison you against her. And sometimes you just want to say, okay, fine, I'll just go. All right, I'll just do it. And then it spirals. And then a person feels, oh, they did something, and they can't be forgiven for what they've done. I'm not saying you get a free pass. I'm not saying that. But think about it. Bring you down, way down. That's what we want. Right? Even letting in a little bit. Yeah, even letting in a little bit is going to be a problem. That's going to be a problem because it doesn't stop there. Once the evil inclination has a foothold in, even a little bit, it's going to make a hole in the armor. Even a tiny hole. But what does the evil inclination do? He's got plenty of time. Even if he makes a tiny, tiny, tiny hole, he's going to want to make that hole bigger. It's only a matter of time before he makes it bigger. Because the evil inclination is not going to come and say, I want you to desecrate Shabbos. I want you to do idolatry. You're not going to listen. But over time, when a person's resolve gets weaker, and they run into they run into problems, and they don't have the fervor they used to have, and the resolve gets a little bit weaker. Then the evil inclination pounces. The evil inclination comes along and pounces. So we got to be strong as fire and keep it out. Keep any of it out, because if you don't, once you let it in a little bit, it spirals. Yeah, and then when a person, let's say, is under, let's say they're under pressure, different things, very hard. They go back to the bad ways, right? Tell anyone who's a, reformed smoker, let's say, or let's say they're a reformed smoker, they haven't smoked in a long time. They get in a certain situation, whatever it is, a lot of pressure, a lot of pressure. What's the first thing they do when they're under pressure? Have a cigarette. They haven't smoked in years. I'm not saying they're going to continue whatever, but you go back to bad habits. When you go back to bad habits, that's bad. Then it can spiral. Right? But again, we all fail at some level. So we got to give ourselves a little bit of slack. Sure, we have to give ourselves a little bit of slack, but it's hard because you get bombarded on all sides. People will say you're wasting your time, you're wasting your life, you should do this, you should do that. Everyone's a Monday morning quarterback. But people say hurtful things. Right? 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 So you're under a lot of pressure. Someone says, why should they care? It's very easy why they care. They want you to be more like them. They do not want you to estrange yourself from them. Very simple. They want you to be normal. In their eyes. They want the old person back. Well, that old person's not coming back. They're not open-minded. They're not claiming to be open-minded. Right? But they want you to lose your resolve. That's what they want. They want you to be weaker. They want you to be like them. Do the same things they do. That's what they want. Yeah. They're not doing it for altruistic reasons. Maybe some. They miss the old person. They want to go out with them, hang out with them, be like it was old times. Old times gone. Ain't going back, right? It's a test. It's a big test. If you had a good relationship with them before, it's a big test. Very, very big test. Yeah. But again, what's another reason? Because it's like you're saying what they're doing is wrong. Even if you don't say that. I've had many people say, oh, you don't think I'm Jewish. I didn't say you weren't Jewish. Your mother's Jewish. So you're Jewish. Misguided. A lot of other things, but you're Jewish. But they feel an inferiority complex. They feel like, come on. You think you're better. You think that. Not a question what I think or what I don't think. That's not the question. That for sure is not the question. But they're offended. Why are they offended? Why are they offended? Because the way you live your life, even if you don't say it, you're telling them what they do is wrong. So that's why they care. See, thank God for me, people have given up. Long time ago, people have given up. They've given up because they know I'm not going to change. They know it's not going to change. But what do they feel bad about? You're judging them. They think you're judging them. Not judging anyone. You go against the Torah. The Torah says you're wrong. I believe in the Torah, so de facto, I believe what you're doing is wrong also. Okay? Well, I don't care what you say. Fine. I care what the Torah says. You don't care. It's your choice. 100% your choice. But why are they offended? Because deep down, they know what's right. In your case, maybe they don't know what's right. They just want you to be like everyone else. But a Jew deep down knows what the truth is. Deep down, they know what the truth is. They don't want you to rub it in their face. Even, like someone said, I'm offended by the way you dress. I'm like, what's wrong with the way I dress? White shirt, black pants, with or without stripes, dark blue pants, with or without stripes, or dark gray with or without stripes. You'll see me outside with a hat and a jacket or whatever. I wear tzitzis, okay. I wear yarmulke, good. So what's the way, what's the difference the way I dress? I said, if I dress in like a ripped t-shirt and jeans or shorts, and I sat on your roof. I was like strumming my guitar and smoking weed. I'm like, would that bother you? He was a prominent doctor, in a certain community. I go, would that bother you? The guy's thinking. I'm like, are you out of your mind? If I pierce my body like everywhere, like that wouldn't bother you? Yeah, you think that's normal? Like this is normal behavior? But you want to give good values to your kids and this and that, and like it doesn't matter. It's crazy, crazy world. Yeah, right. So you're not totally alone. There are plenty of other people like that. And no one around them. That's why community is so important. Because family's nothing. Family's an albatross. Can be an albatross. But yeah. But what do we want more than anything else? Nice pat in the back. They respect what we do. You'll never get that, right? A person can just throw that out the window. They'll never get it. If you get it, you're lucky. We want to show them hopeful lifestyle, this, that. They don't care. They don't care. It's lonely. It can be a very lonely process. Yes, it can. Rather than a proper community, it's less lonely. But it won't be with family. It won't be able to share it with family. It's just not going to happen, right? Even a person that had close family, whatever, it's painful. It's a painful thing, but that is the reality. Yeah, let me just see other questions here. 1 second. Is there any other? Yeah, no other questions here. Yeah, people think, people said, oh, you're so cocky. You think you know better in this that. I said, I do know better. Because I've learned all this stuff. I said, if you want to learn it, why do you want to learn? But I believe it's true. Been brainwashed. Great. Said, yeah, I could opt out at any time. Nothing's keeping me here. If I want to leave, I can leave. If you buy into it, you buy into it. But people look at confidence as being cocky. Yeah. Like having a chip on your shoulder. Yeah, I'm very confident in what I believe. But you know what? I've done the research. I've learned for many years. You don't know nothing from nothing. So what are you telling me? You got nothing. Zero. You'll say, oh, they think that's like having a chip on their shoulder. Okay. Listen, they're very confident in what they believe in. Sort of. Yeah, why don't they have a chip on their shoulder? Because they don't want to do it. They don't want to believe in it. But the confidence doesn't mean that you're haughty. Doesn't mean you have gaiva, that you're conceited. Doesn't mean that. We believe 100% we're right. Oh, other religions think they're right. Very good. They also think they're right. Good. Can't be right. But I said, there's evidence. You want to see the evidence? No. Not interested in evidence. Okay. They just want to do what they want to do. Yeah. Having confidence, this is a much bigger topic I'm not going to get into now, but having confidence does not mean that you have gaiva, that you're conceited. Does not mean that. Person is 100% about bitachon. They have perfect faith in God. That means they're conceited. Why does that mean they're conceited? I believe there are answers. There are answers if you want it. You don't want it, okay. But I have answers. I'm not being conceited. I mean, but they think that, but that's not what it is. Yeah. Any other questions? All right, I'm gonna stop here. I do this every Sunday. 9 o'clock Eastern Time, 4 o'clock, back to 4 o'clock Israel time now that they changed clocks in the States. Anyone has any questions, find me on Facebook at Michael Chaim Kaufman, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism, orthodoxconversion.com. And Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism on YouTube. There I got videos on Q&As, Ethics of Our Fathers, Book of Leviticus. You want to send me an email, rabbichaimkaufman@gmail.com, RBBIChaimCoffman @gmail.com. Wish you have a good beginning of the day, middle of the day, etc., or end of the day. And